In Fastify, we can use hooks to listen to specific events in the application or the request response lifecycle and add custom behavior to our backend logic. In this video, I'm going to show you how to leverage Fastify hooks to develop a custom cache plugin. For this plugin, we are also going to use the Node Cache module, that is an in-memory caching package similar to Memcached. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and let's get to it. On a previous video, we started working with Fastify plugins. We started working with a plugin to access environment variables, that is the Fastify Env plugin. And we also integrated a MongoDB plugin, that is the Fastify MongoDB plugin. And we also added a couple of endpoints to get the list of existing messages from MongoDB, and also another endpoint to create new messages and insert new elements into the Mongo database. And now we are going to add a new plugin where we are going to add a caching solution where we're going to use the request URL to cache the responses. So here I'm going to create a new file in our plugin folder. This will be cache.js. This will be a plugin, so we need to create a function. This will be async function cache. This is going to receive Fastify and options. And now I'm going to install a library that is Node Cache that will allow us to store the key value pairs, where the key is going to be the request URL and the value associated to that key will be the backend response. So I'm going to open a new terminal and I'm going to install the package. So this is npm install and the package is Node Cache. Okay, the package has been installed, so I'm going to close this and I'm going to import that package. So this is const, this is Node Cache, this is require Node Cache. And here within this function for the plugin, I'm going to create a new instance of that cache. So this is const cache equals to new, and this is Node Cache. Okay, and here I'm going to add a new hook, that is the onRequest hook. This hook is the first one that is executed once Fastify receives an incoming request. So this is Fastify dot add hook, and here we need to pass what is the hook, that in this case is onRequest, and a handler function that receives the request and the response. So this is async, this is request, reply, and within this function we are going to check that we receive a get request. Those are the type of HTTP methods that we want to cache, the get HTTP requests. We're going to check that the request URL, that is the key of our cache, has an associated value, and in that case we are going to return that result. So first we are going to check the HTTP verb. So here, if the request method is get, so this is request.method. Only in this case, we're going to check our cache. So here we're going to check if we have a value associated to the request URL. So this is const response equals to cache.get. And here we pass the key of our cache, that is request.url. And here we're going to check if the response is undefined. That means that there is no value associated to that cache. Response is not equals to undefined. We just return that value. So this is reply, and here we can return a successful HTTP code, that is 200. We're going to pass the content type of the response, that in this case is JSON. So this is content type, and this is application JSON, and we can pass the char set, for example, char set equals UTF-8. And now we return the value from the cache back to the client. So this is send, and this is response. Now I'm going to add another hook, that is the onSend hook. This hook is executed before we send the response back to the client, and it's executed after, in this case, after we got the data from the MongoDB database. So this is Fastify dot add hook, and this is onSend, and this hook also happens before the onResponse hook, that is the last hook that is executed in the Fastify lifecycle. And here we have a handler, and this handler receives the request, the response, the payload that is going to be sent back to the client, and a done function. The done function is basically a callback that needs to be executed to continue with the life cycle. And within this handler, we are going to check again if the request method is get. So I'm going to copy this. And here I'm going to check that if there is no value associated to this key, then I'm going to store the payload in the cache using that key. So if there is no value associated to that request URL, so this is response equals to undefined. In this case, I'm going to store a new key pair in the cache using the request URL as the key and the payload as the value associated to that key. So this is cache.set. And first we need to pass the key, that is request.url, and the value that is the payload parameter that we receive here. Okay, and here I need to call the done function to continue with the life cycle. Okay, and Node Cache supports passing a TTL or time to live for the keys. So the keys are going to expire after the time that we define. So const cache TTL or duration. And here I'm going to set 15 seconds as a duration for the keys. And here we need to pass this value on the set method. So when we set the payload that is associated to the key, here we need to pass that value. I'm going to pass it here. Okay, and here we need to do something similar to what we've done with the MongoDB plugin. So we need to wrap the plugin using the Fastify plugin to enable access to the parent context. So I'm going to grab this require from here. I'm going to paste it here. And here we need to do something similar. So we need to do module.exports. And here we need to pass the name of the function of the plugin. Using this, basically, we will be able to access this plugin from the context where we require the plugin. So in our case, we're going to require this plugin from the server. So I'm going to grab this from here. I'm going to register the cache here. And this is plugin/cache. So the Node Cache package supports events. So for example, it's going to trigger the expired event once a key is expired. So when we reach the duration time or the TTL time, in this case 15 seconds, it's going to trigger this event, and we can handle that event associating a handler function. So this is cache.on, and the event in this case is expired. And here we can associate a function. And here we are going to just add a console log, console.log. And here we can add a message, let's say cache key expired. And we can include the value of that key. That in our case is request.url. And here I'm going to add a console log. This is the place where I'm going to return a response from the cache. So this is returning value from cache for key. And again, this is the key, request.url. And here I can also log the value associated to the key. is value equals to, and this is response. And here I'm going to log another message. This is the place where I'm going to set the value associated to the request URL. So this is caching response for key. This is request.url, and the value associated to that key, this is value equals, and this is payload. Okay, and let's go to our endpoints. So I'm going to test this endpoint. So I'm going to log a message just to show when we are actually returning a value from the database. So this is console.log, and here we can say returning value from MongoDB for URL, and here we can add the URL, request.url. Okay, and here this handler is wrong. It's not going to receive the request and the response. It's going to receive the key and the value. So here we are going to just show the key that expired. Let's run the server. This is npm run dev. And I'm just going to test this route. So the endpoint is localhost, the port is 3000, /API/v1/messages. So I'm going to click on send. And if we check the console log, we are returning the value from Mongo, and we're caching the response for that key. If I run this again, this is going to return the value from the cache for that URL. And now, if I run this again, this is probably going to expire. Yes, cache key expired, is the URL, and it's going to return the value from Mongo, and it's going to cache the response again. If we run this again, yeah, we get the value from the cache. And if we run this again, the key is going to expire again, probably. So let's run this again. And yes, the cache key expired again. It's going to return the value again from MongoDB, and it's going to cache the value set to that key again. That's all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.